What a great pleasure it is to welcome to What's Next, Sascha Sauer, who is the head of Audi South Africa. And I'm super excited to be talking to you today, Sascha, because I've been at one of your global events, and I've just recently driven one of your electric cars. And I love your brand. I'm in love with your brand. I'm in love with the quality of the cars that are coming out. And I'm so passionate about electric vehicles. So I'm super excited to be talking to you. Welcome to What's Next, Sascha. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you very much, Aki. First of all, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure. And you see, we've got a wonderful day in the background. You see the sky. We've got a lot of sun up here. And I realize already with your introduction, we share a lot of the passion for electric cars and for this fantastic brand and for cars in general, most likely.
Well,
So
absolutely.
thanks for having me. It's really my pleasure.
Listen, I'm looking so forward to chatting to you, but you've actually been at Audi for a long time. I mean, you've been with Audi for 25 years, I understand. And I know Audi is one of these organizations in the automotive sector. You're a big car company, you're part of a big group, and you guys have constantly been innovating. And I know that electric was on the radar even 25 years ago when you first started at Audi. How are you using this experience to improve at Audi South Africa? Because you've seen so much change at Audi. Just tell us about how your experience has been so far and what you're bringing to the whole ecosystem here in South Africa.
Yeah, you're right. I'm with this fantastic brand for almost, well, I'm in my 26th year now, so I've completed 25 years. You're very right about that. And I've been in various functions and in different roles over the past couple of years. Obviously, I've worked abroad, I worked in China. I worked always internationally with an international background, which really suits me well. And I've worked for a variety of different markets and with different markets over the couple of years in this company. And among them, there were, very developed countries, very mature countries and economies, and there were emerging markets and developing countries, the like. And I also spent some time in China, working in China with Audi. And I really don't like to compare countries with each other because I think that every country is very different from each other. But there are certain, learnings to be taken also from working with other companies, with other countries, and with different environments and economies, obviously. What I can say is that definitely electric cars are at the forefront in many countries already, as you may well be aware of. And I think we want to try and educate the South African customers in the same way and to achieve a similar trend in South Africa with electric cars and making them more popular, better understood, of course, and to set the scene for the future and prepare us for the future and hopefully for a better future.
Wow, it's exciting. And it's so interesting in South Africa. I've been speaking to a lot of friends of mine who've got Audis and have had Audis for many decades. You have a very loyal following, and you're actually drawing new customers as well. And I've got to tell you, I just recently drove one of your e-trons, and I still close my eyes and I dream about this experience. And I'm not saying it to you because I'm just talking to you now, but I've driven EVs from the Nissan Leaf. I've driven various Teslas. I've driven, BMWs. I mean, I've driven many different brands, this one just blew me away. And it just goes to show you how mature this market is becoming, because from a car and everything around the vehicle and the range anxiety and the comfort and everything, Audi, I believe, have got it right with the e-tron. And this is one of the major global trends in motoring today, right, is e-mobility. And this is so interesting to see that Audi is driving this trend in South Africa. And I know you've been talking a lot about it, but now it's finally happening here. And do you believe that now is the right time for South Africa to embrace an electric motoring future? Are we ready for this, Sascha?
Yeah, I think this is a question I would like to answer probably twofold. First of all, we think it's the right time for South Africa and for us as a business, for us as a company, to introduce electric cars also to South Africa. And I believe, and I strongly believe, that we should not withhold any modern technology from a South African market. I mean, why should we not bring to the market the latest and greatest technology at any given time? So, I mean, if you consider the greater scheme of things here, then it becomes very clear that now is really the right time, and that the first steps have to be taken. If we look at it on a very high level, we know that South Africa is one of the countries who has signed off on the Paris Climate Agreement, for example. So it is very clear that the government here needs to take actions as well. But we cannot only rely on a government to take action, so also each and every individual and each and every company needs to take action actually in their required and their relevant area of responsibility, I shall say. So when it comes to that, we feel it was the right time launching EV cars, actually a whole range, a whole fleet of EV cars at the beginning of this year. On the 22nd of February 2022, we launched the EV Future for Audi here in the country. And I mean, by doing so, we really emphasized the commitment, and also we thought a lot about how can we demonstrate that commitment to the South African customer, and to make sure that it is felt like an honest approach to this market here, and not like a Me Too exercise to say, yeah, it is just on vogue nowadays to have an EV offering in your portfolio, and here it is, and we've got that tick box, and it's fine. But when we came to the market, and that's why we felt it was the right time, because the products were available for us, and we wanted to make a big statement. So when we launched the cars, we launched a whole range and a whole fleet, and immediately a whole portfolio of cars, all the way up to super sports cars almost, when we're talking about an e-tron GT RS. So we give the consumers, hopefully right at the beginning already, the confidence that this is a long-term commitment, that this is a serious engagement. And I may mention also that we put a lot of money already behind the entire business, also together with some partners like Grid Cars, in developing, like you rightly mentioned, the charging infrastructure, for example, because we know that the majority of resistance resides around range anxiety of customers, along with probably the charging required at home. Home charging is an issue, and the public charging network in general. Yes. How many chargers are available, how fast are they, where are they located, etc. So we felt that it was the right time, because the charging network had developed. We had the right product portfolio available to make a big, bold, and very committed statement into the country. And to be honest, also looking ahead, and that's why I mentioned the Paris Climate Agreement, it is a journey. And that journey has to start sometime, and it needs to be started by someone, and someone needs to take that responsibility and pioneer the whole process. So we felt that we could do a lot in this direction, and we felt that it was appropriate also because by 2026 onwards, Audi as a global OEM will only launch electric cars going forward.
Wow.
So any new car launch from 2026 onwards, will only be electric. So that means we are in 2022, meanwhile, by the end of 2022 almost, there isn't much time, in our business at least, to prepare for a major transformation in our business. So we felt we better take that opportunity now. We've got the product, the infrastructure is coming up right now. We are developing in a very fast pace in this direction. There's a political environment which is going to be favorable in the future. We're quite confident about that, given the fact that this government has also signed the Paris Climate Agreement and committed itself to the targets. So that is hopefully a good explanation around why we felt it was right, and why we believe that it is going to be the future, even here in South Africa. And I know there are a lot of obstacles and challenges.
You see, what I'm so encouraged about is that you're not a company that's bought in one vehicle and you're testing the market to see what's going to happen. You've invested this. This is the future, and you've demonstrated the future. It's not one car; it's a whole range of vehicles. And Winston Jordan, the CEO of Grid Cars, who I know so well, him and I have been talking about electric cars for a very, very long time. And the infrastructure is there right now. And I know as South Africans, we we have our own challenges. Let's be honest, when you talk about electric cars, people say, we don't have electricity. How are you going to charge your car? But that's actually a mind shift. We've got to shift our minds when it comes to electric vehicles. You can't use those kind of examples. And I'd like to talk to you about what you're doing in South Africa to change these attitudes about electric vehicles. And, the misconception that South Africa is not ready to support electric vehicles, because I don't buy that. And whoever I have the argument with about electric cars, I counter every single argument. And this is the one that Winston taught me about. He says, if you got a cell phone, your battery doesn't go down to zero every day. You go home, you plug in your cell phone, it charges. And I know that's a very general statement to make, but that's very similar to what electric cars are like, right? And the whole notion about range anxiety, I say audit how many kilometers you drive every day and look at the range of your vehicle. You're never going to be caught on the road with no energy, because just there are so many charge points around. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and how you counter those arguments with South Africans, all these kinds of misconceptions.
Yeah, I think you're very passionate and very excited about it, quite obviously. But I can only support you on your observations. I think there is a lot of misconception around EV cars in this country, and probably has been in many other countries as well before, to be quite honest also. I mean, even in Germany, many people have still misconceptions, about EV cars. So it's not a phenomenon specific to South Africa. That's something we have to work on as an industry every time and all the time in all countries. But specifically in South Africa, I think there are a number of facts and figures which we need to put on the table in order to have a more qualified discussion probably. I don't think that range anxiety is an issue generally, and should be, for the very reason which you just indicated already. The modern cars, already have a range of anything between 400 and 500 kilometers, let's face it, right? So we know from experience and from research that the average commuting distance in South Africa is somewhere in the range of 50 kilometers a day.
Thank you.
So you would only have to charge the car once a week, let's face it, from then almost zero up to 100 again, and you're good to go for another week. But like you said, and like the gentleman from Gridcast quoted already, you're gonna change your attitude and your usage pattern, because the car will be plugged in once you come home, like you plug in your phone, like you plug in your laptop computer. You will never allow your laptop computer to run completely empty, right? It's not going to die to zero immediately, and also the phone will never die to zero typically. So you always will charge the car at home, which is quite convenient, because you don't have to see a petrol station anymore. You don't have to go at the darkest night to a petrol station to fill up in order to get home or whatever. So I think when you wake up in the morning, it will be always full. You basically leave home always with a range of 350, 450, whatever may be the case. And that is definitely enough to cater for quite a while, typically, unless you're telling me you're driving 300, 400 kilometers every day, then I would say that's something probably would provoke a different consideration.
Yes.
But the majority of people do not drive that much. So, and to support that, we have invested a lot of money together with our partner Gridcast and together with Winston in expanding the existing public charging network. And in fact, we were the first company to install the fastest chargers yet available in the country with 150 kilowatt DC charging power. And they are, as I said, the fastest chargers in the country. So there's even modern technology available in the country and up-to-date technology as we speak. And we've installed 9 fast and super fast chargers and another 24 AC chargers at various destinations where customers typically spend anyway anything between an hour and 3 hours. May it be a shopping center, may it be a fitness center, may it be a golf and country club. So that has expanded the network currently to something in the range of 350 to 400 public chargers being available as we speak in the country already. And if I may, I can also indicate already that we're working on a second wave of investment to install another, let's say, 40 chargers in the country.
Wow.
So it's going to expand quite rapidly now.
No, that's amazing. And those high-speed chargers are amazing. And I was at one of your dealerships. I went there, I had a cup of coffee, caught up on my emails. 45 minutes later, my e-tron was charged to over 70% capacity. I mean, those high-speed chargers, and you're quite right, it's just going to grow with the infrastructure, and you've got these all over the place. I did not struggle to find a charge point wherever I went. I'm interested to know in the electric vehicles that you currently offer in South Africa, and as we said earlier, it's not just one vehicle you're bringing in, it's a range. You've put your money where your mouth is and you've committed. Audi South Africa says, we're here, we're putting our stamp where it comes to EV. Tell us about the new fleet lineup and the EVs and what else we can expect to come. And what therapy can you provide me for the e-tron that I cannot get out of my head, please?
Yeah, I know you were driving an e-tron. Which model actually were you driving specifically?
It was there's two. It's the top of the range one. That looked like a spaceship inside. That gave me the most exhilarating.
E-tron Sport.
Yeah, I tell you, I still close my eyes and imagine that pull off. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, so I mean, when it comes to the current offering, I think it's the e-tron SUV in terms of the body style. We've got an e-tron Sportback, which is more of a crossover body style with a coupe like roofline, which is a little bit more on the sportier side. And we've got different drivetrains, different batteries, different power output, obviously. We start with 300 kilowatts of power. That's where we currently start with our offering. And it goes all the way up to the e-tron GT. And the pinnacle of our offering at the moment is the e-tron GT RS, which is really an exciting piece of technology and of design. So that is what we have on offer today. And at the beginning of the year, when we launched the e-tron fleet and the e-tron portfolio, we promised also, and I personally promised in some interviews also, that we're going to launch at least a new model every year.
Wow.
Into the market going forward. And I would like to stick to that promise and commit myself to also doing so. As I said, we're here to last, and we're not here to go away soon. So we're going to make that a success because we have to also, to be also very frank and honest about it, our business is selling cars, and the future is going to be electric, and it doesn't matter whether I like electric cars or not, which fortunately I do, but it is the future of our business, it's the future of our organization, and it's the future of our partners, our dealer retail partners who have invested massively into the brand and also massively into this technology now. You were just referring to one of the dealers who have invested into charging points, into very expensive piece of technology in terms of a 50 kilowatt or 75 kilowatt chargers, which still are quite costly.
Yes. So I mean,
we're gonna see more exciting models. That's what I can promise you. And wait for early next year, and you're gonna see another new model.
No, fantastic. Also, you did touch on earlier on the cost of EVs, and yes, they're not cheap, but you did mention that you're very hopeful of what's going to happen with import duties and that sort of things. And I know that there's a paper out there, and government is looking at it. And I think as soon as that changes as well, that's going to be a massive breakthrough, because we're going to see EV prices drop, and we're going to just see a lot of changes coming into the market, right?
Yeah, I believe your observation is absolutely correct. That's what we expect too. We know, of course, that there are ongoing discussions with and via various industry bodies. NAMSA is just one of them, with the Ministry of Transport and Industry, with Minister Patel in person, to find ways how the current system could be further improved in order to give the EV cars a little bit more, and the hybrid plug-in cars probably a little bit more of a favorable price point in the market. Yeah. As we speak, the government is actually putting a prohibitive system in place, because we're paying 25% of duty.
That's right.
On EV cars instead of 18% on normal ICE combustion engine cars. So that's quite of a difference already. So it is different from other countries also, who are doing the opposite, who are incentivizing EV cars in order to help transition and transform the industry and help a sustainable mobility into the future.
Yeah, but it must be so exciting, and I know you're going to answer this next question because you are biased because you've got Audi running through your blood, right? But the heritage of Audi and the VW group and Porsche now listed as a separate company, but you all share a lot of similar technologies, and I've driven the Porsche Taycan, for example, but there was something different about this Audi electric vehicle and the other competitors that I've driven. What in your mind sets Audi's electric vehicles apart? For me, the quality of the finishes and the user interface in the car, when you want to switch off and you want to access different parts of it, for me, the user interface was wow. And the drive was wow. But in your eyes, what sets Audi apart?
Yeah, you're right. I'm a little bit biased, I must admit that. But it's hard to describe emotions and feelings at time. I think you would have to discover and experience what you have experienced, apparently recently, in a very positive way. But I would say, first and foremost, for me, I'm a very visual person. I really like the design, and I like how our designers find solutions to exterior design as well as interior design, the ergonomics. Everything is just fitting right, like a hand glove. You just put it on and it just fits you right. Everything is at a place where it's supposed to be. The ergonomics are just right, and the performance and the build quality is just stunning. And I think we're still benchmark in the industry when it comes to build quality since a couple of years meanwhile. So it is for me very much the whole operation and the whole experience of operating a car. The interface you were just referring to is meanwhile really an excellent operating system. It is fun to operate. It is highly digitalized. It is highly connected. It's very modern. It's the latest and greatest in terms of technology. Obviously, that technology is also evolving fast, so we need to really keep track continuously in making sure that we continuously offer the latest and greatest and keep up with the latest developments in the electronics industry as well. But I would really say it is a fantastic piece of design. It's an engineering marvel, really. And of course, what also I like very much is the driving performance, and that is hard to describe, obviously. I mean, with an EV car and this instantaneous or delivery of power and performance and the torque, it is hard to describe to someone who has never felt that before. I describe myself to be a real petrol head, but nevertheless, I'm absolutely excited and fascinated by the way an EV car performs and delivers its performance, actually. Yeah,
No,
because it's so instantaneous.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And it's, you talk about the ergonomics, and it's extraordinary for me how many people look at the car when you drive past them and they hear the silence and they look at that acceleration and they say, wow, But you talk about ergonomics, and I'm quite a big guy. I'm 6'2", and I felt very comfortable in the car. And the ergonomics for me are important in a car because I want to have the room above my head. I want to feel spacious. And of course, there's so much space available in the boot depending on the car that you've got. But Audi's really applied a lot of thought to the ergonomics when it comes to these kind of things. And for me, what's fascinating and I love and appreciate, because I come from a technology background and I love innovation, it must be so exciting to watch the innovations that we haven't seen yet, that you probably hear about at Audi, and the work that's been done on electric vehicles, because we're just seeing, the beginning of this incredible revolution that's happening around us. There must be some very exciting concept cars that are coming our way and different innovations that are coming to electric vehicles, Sascha.
Yeah, you're very right. You're well informed, I must say. When it comes to future design and future ergonomics and future layout of cars and possibilities which might exist in the interior of a car, considering that electronics and autonomous driving is the next big pillar and the next big thing to come, apart from digitalization today and electric cars itself. So there's another big thing and another big trend, which is autonomous driving. Now, if cars are driving autonomously, you can think immediately about, why would you need a steering wheel? What happens with your pedals? What happens with the entire interior? What's going to happen with the driver, if I may call him still a driver, in the car and its passengers. What possibilities do they have suddenly? How do they entertain themselves while the car is driving? How do they spend time in the car? Do they relax? Do they work? Probably. Do they watch a movie? Can they watch a movie? Is that possible? And when it comes to design, I think Audi has, since end of 2021, actually released a couple of design studies. You might be aware of them,
Yes.
like the Sky Sphere, the Crank Sphere, and the Urban Sphere. And they have recently also announced a fourth one, which will be released early next year. And if you look at the design of those cars and the different concepts and technologies displayed in these wonderful concept cars, you have probably a very good understanding what future EV cars from the Audi brand could look like and which elements they will probably feature going forward and what's going to happen in the interior space of the car. And I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with the fourth concept car, which we're going to launch next year, the Active Sphere, which is really a car which will most certainly cater for South African demands and likes, because it's a perfect symbiosis between design, on-road and off-road capabilities, huge interior space, and it's going to be electric and autonomously driving. So it's going to showcase that all, and I think that's a fantastic concept for the South African market, most likely.
That's pretty amazing. And because the car is so connected, you're able to continuously innovate, right, and push updates all the time. I got a sense, and having a little bit about knowledge about autonomous vehicles, I know there's a lot of stuff that's not that remains locked, that you haven't unlocked in this new generation of Audis, because they can actually do so much more, but you have to have the other technology in place around it. But I'm pretty sure that this current range is close to autonomous level 4 in terms of the technology that's built in. So the future is going to be so exciting to see where we're going. But I'm sure you have these conversations with so many people, Sascha, about, they come up to you and they say, I want to buy an electric car. What do you advise? How should I go about it? What advice do you give South Africans? Because so many of my friends saw me driving this, they loved it, they want an electric car, and there's obviously the reservations that people have, but this is where the future is. There's no doubt about it. So what advice do you give South Africans who are considering buying an EV in the future?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very valid question, Aki, and I must say that question is being raised quite frequently with me, also from my, let's say, immediate background and from my friends and colleagues around here who I meet, and they want to know, okay, but how about this? How about that? What must I consider? And I would say the most important thing, like always, actually, it should be a proper and honest needs and demands analysis. That goes without saying, because if you tell me you're going to drive every day 400 kilometers, I would say, probably not now. Yeah. If you are saying, well, I use my car like 99% of the people probably do in this country, like commuting every day, and I go to the sports club and I go to play golf and I go back home and I do the groceries and so on, then we're talking. And then I would say the most important thing to consider first and foremost is your home setup, your charging infrastructure, your electricity and technology side of the building, so to speak, at home, to establish what needs to be done in order to charge the car at home. We are definitely helping you with a service provider to establish that. That is included whenever you buy a car from us. A very trained and skilled person will come and assess at home your individual situation, because the situations are very different and you need to really cater for that, and you must allow for that, definitely. So my piece of advice in this regard would be, make sure that your brand and your dealer, whoever you're gonna do business with, is having this in place, offering that, and offering a good quality service with a trained and educated and skilled person to assess the home charging. I would also say, make sure that the car you're interested in comes as a kind of a full package with all the services included. Not only look at the car, but you need to look and consider what is the warranty side of the car, what is the warranty of the battery? What is the offering like with regard to service maintenance plans, for example? Is it included or not? So it's going to be very hassle-free for you once everything is included, I can tell you. And if you then consider, if you're charging at home, yeah, and I worked out my electricity bill to come down to free rent something per kilowatt hour. If I were to charge my car at home constantly and exclusively, I would save so much money versus the car I'm running at the moment is an ICE engine car. I mean, you're basically paying only 30% of what it costs you to fill up a tank for a ICE engine car at the moment. So a charge costs you 300 rand, and it's going to carry you for 300, 400, 500 kilometers, depending on your driving style.
Yes.
Compare that with a comparable car in that segment with a diesel or petrol engine. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't make a huge difference. You're going to be 3 times to 4 times as costly with the current fuel prices.
Yeah, you know what? That actually is such a good point you made, because I had this conversation with Winston, and he says, on average, an electric car will cost you around about 30% of what a normal vehicle will cost you, more or less. You can go around, you can, it depends how you drive, etc., etc. But Sascha Sauer, head of Audi South Africa, such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm glad I'm talking to someone who shares the same passion as me with electric vehicles and vehicles in particular. But here's a parting thought, and I bet you've had this conversation. I know many people who've bought an electric vehicle, but none of those people have gone back to the vehicle they were driving before. So once you go electric, there's no way going back. I can tell you that. That's how amazing that experience is, and that's the way of the future. Thank you for joining me, Sascha.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity here and having me on What's Next, Aki. And I share your passion, and I can only support what you were saying right now, having had the same experience recently. So it's clear for me where the future lies and where it goes to.
Well, listen, I look forward to chatting to you in the next few months and next year perhaps. And we look back to the conversation we had in 2022 and we say, wow, look at the charge stations that have rolled out. Look at how the change in landscape is happening. Because people think that it's such a small percentage of car sales, but there's this EV tsunami that's heading our way. And as you said, by 2026, a company like Audi is only going to be rolling out EVs. That is the future. Thank you for joining me, and wishing you well, Sascha.
Wishing you well too. Thank you very much.
Cheers.